In software engineering, there's always this disconnect between the should do's and the things that we actually do. So we know we should do a bunch of stuff in the course of working on a feature in whatever software product we're developing. And consequently, what we end up doing, there's this gap. And those gaps can be really costly down the road. And why does this happen? It's not because we're lazy, at least most of the time. It's just that we're really busy or even just a little bit bored by some of these things that we have to do. And we're just sort of either implicitly or actively accepting that future cost. But we don't actually have to anymore. Like agents are never lazy and they're pretty good at following instructions. So what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to focus in on a particular set of should-dos versus what we actually do. And this is specifically around when we're wrapping up a feature. So we've written the code, we've tested it, we feel good about it, maybe we got some acceptance from our colleagues, and we're ready to create a pull request. So there's a bunch of stuff that we should be doing at this point as a part of this whole closeout operation. We should be documenting the as-is version of what we did versus what was designed, right? There might be disconnects between what we were meant to do and then what we actually did. And they could be totally valid disconnects, not because of feature drift or errors, which is, we learned better about this feature as we built it and we changed and we deviated from the spec. Totally valid. A lot of times if you're doing stuff with, maybe you're doing a part of a feature that impacts the database, ideally you're going to have an up-to-date, conveniently accessible diagram that shows the schema of that database along with some explanation for why it is the way it is. Another really big one is tech debt. As we're building stuff, we're going to take shortcuts and we defer some picky, annoying technical decisions into the future. And the problem there's nothing wrong with doing that. That's totally normal. But where it becomes a problem is if you incur that tech debt, but you don't document it. So if you don't know the tech debt is there, then the next person that comes along or the next coding agent that comes along may not even know it's there, and they may actually follow a bad pattern and just make things even worse. So these are just some of the kinds of things that you need to deal with during the closeout process. And we all know this, like hardly anyone would disagree. If you've been experienced in doing this for a few years or 20 years or 40 years like me, you know what you should be doing at the end before you close out. So I'm going to dig into this a little bit. I just completed the first feature in the portfolio operating system. And if you don't know me, my name is Paul, and that's what I'm doing. I'm building a portfolio operating system for active retail traders. And like I said, just finished this feature. I created a closeout agent, and I'm going to walk you through in detail what that is so that I can start following the should-do list more accurately. So let me flip over to that and show you what it looks like. So right here is my agent pane where I've been doing this work, and this is a Visual Studio feature. And I have a couple of agents. I have a video up where I walk through the brainstorming agent in detail, but here's the closeout agent. So what this guy is doing is his job is to turn this completed implementation into clean and durable project knowledge. And I think that that's one of the better ways to think about this, is that we're trying to use the agent to create for us product knowledge, durable product knowledge. So it's not just about documentation or just about tech debt. It's the bigger thing. And you'll see that this agent's, the kinds of things that I've instructed it to do are all focused around product knowledge. So one of the ones that we want to do is look at the code that we have. So this particular agent ideally is going to run before the pull request is approved because it has access to everything that was actually changed. And one of the great things about that is that when we're building software and we're doing all the stuff that we have to do, it takes, it runs over the course typically of many days and even, a week. If it's a long story, it could be 2 weeks long. And you might forget, the stuff that you did. So this guy right here is going to look at the whole diff, everything that changed, and account for everything. So that just means he's going to do a better job than I typically would on something. And then giving him some rules about where we want documents. And so by doing this right here, by telling it where the documents belong and what kind of documents belong there, now we're helping to establish consistency, not just for ourselves, but maybe even more importantly, for the agents that are going to come along and start implementing the next round of stories and the round of stories after that. So having all this stuff in a central controlled place is, of course, essential. And also by telling them what they should do, they're going to follow this rule for us, unlike a potential developer who maybe misses the fact that there's a docs folder or creates a new subfolder that's similar to one of the other ones. Such a common thing that we see teams do. So this is going to go through, he's going to assess the workflow, he's going to create a changelog entry in the README file. He's going to refresh any documentation when the schema changes in the database. What are some other things? He's going to look at transient documentation. So I'm a big fan of writing scratch notes or plans or various kinds of documents and keeping them in the repo. I used to be a big OneNote person and keep a lot of stuff outside, but I found the context switching between tools didn't work for me. And consequently, a lot of times the stuff, my PRs might include these transient notes that are not super useful. So the agent can look at that and say, hey, this doesn't belong in the repo anymore. So either let's get rid of it or let's at least move it off to the side so it doesn't clutter up the main documentation area. Another one is, let me see, skip around here. So another one here is tech debt. So being able to identify that tech debt, that's wicked important. And then you'll see how I use that to go from tech debt that's documented to creating issues in GitHub in a moment. All right, so anyway, you can read the whole thing. This is all available up in the repo, and I'll have a link for that in the description. So what did this agent do for me when I ran it? So let's look here. I'm actually going to flip over to here, and I have a pull request. And I actually already approved it, but here it is. So let's look at these. Let's look at the files here. Let's see if I can do this quickly. Okay, actually right off the bat. So in the README file, this guy went and he created for me a changelog in the README file. So let's go find the README file over here. It's in main. And if we look at the README, you'll see in here that there's a changelog. So this is a changelog. So I just went in and updated it. So pretty useful thing. We all should normally be writing and updating changelogs, and here we go. It went and it did it for me. So that's wonderful. Another thing that it did, if we go into the code here, if we look at the docs folder, we're going to see in the schema folder, it created a current schema document for me. And here I can see that I'm using Mermaid to visualize it. So I got this, and I didn't have to create this, and I didn't have to remember also that, hey, I should probably go and update this. The Closeout Agent went and created all this for me, even cross-linked to some of the related documentation. So that's one thing. And then another thing that it did, if I go to ADRs, is it's suggesting new architecture decision records for me. So this is another thing too. So as we're writing code and we're building out the solution, first off, we want to make sure that we follow any existing ADRs. And I haven't really talked a lot about architecture decision records in videos yet, but an ADR is just basically a statement of the how something should be built. So when we do authentication, this is how we want to do authentication. If we want to work with a shared service, this is how we work with the shared service. If we want to write React code, we should follow certain core principles. So that's what an ADR is. When we write brand new code, there are two things that can happen, right? We might invent a new pattern, and we like that pattern, and we want to carry that pattern forward. So that should become a new ADR. Or maybe we've diverged from an APR, strayed from an ADR, and now we want to go back and update it. So this right here is going to have a look at all the ADRs we have, look at the code that we wrote, and suggest potential changes. And then also, even better, it suggests brand new ADRs. Those brand new ADRs is part of that product knowledge and building it up. And it becomes input to the next feature that we build. So that's on the ADR side. And then there was another thing that I did in here. I'm trying to remember. It updates the plan. There was another thing where it was suggesting, oh yeah, tech debt, yes, okay, and then we'll just wrap up on tech debt. So here, it created these tech debt items. So here, it was looking at and saying that I have this demo auth path. Well, we should strip that out. So this is it was really just a transient step for me to prove that things are working, and we don't actually want that. It also, I have a kind of not very good way of dealing with the env file for startup parameters. So we want to clean that up. And then there's a question about Prisma code. So these are all valid TechDebt items. And then what I did is, you can see these are logged in GitHub. I actually told the agent I looked at all three of these things and I said, hey, go ahead and create for me these as issues. And now they're as issues here inside of GitHub for me. And now I won't forget about them. So the TechDebt, so what the agent is doing is it's suggesting TechDebt for me, suggesting issues that I might create. I evaluate each one to decide, does it make sense to me or not for this to become actually a future issue to work on. And then I tell the agent, yeah, I like that one. Go ahead and create that for me in my GitHub repo. So that's the idea behind using these closeout agents. So if you found this interesting and you like this kind of content, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I will see you in the next one.